We worked, well, first I have to explain something. We used to make a plaster model, and from a plaster model we would make a galvano.
Right.
Galvanos were, for lack of a better word, bitches to work on.
Hi there, I'm CoinWeek Editor Charles Morgan. I'm at the Whitman Coin Collectibles Expo in Baltimore, where I have the privilege and pleasure to sit down with my friend, former Chief Engraver of the United States Mint, John Mercanti, who is now a private citizen but is still engraving coins. He did the wedge-tail eagle for the Perth Mint and several other designs which are going to be coming out in the next year or so. But we're going to talk about some of his memories from working at the United States Mint, some of the great engravers he worked with, and some of the great untold coin stories behind some coins that you probably collect, the American Silver Eagle and some classic some commemorative coins from the 1990s. But before I start, what was it like working with Frank Gasparro, the former Chief Engraver? I know you worked with him in the 1970s when you got hired as a fledgling engraver. What was Frank like? He was a friend of the hobby, but what was he like to work with?
He was a character. He's one of the characters in my life. He was a funny guy. He was a short little guy, very small. And when I applied for this job, I'd been working as I'll go back to the beginning. I'd been working as an illustrator for the federal government. I worked for the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines. I worked for every branch of the service at one point. And I saw this. I was trying to get ahead. I was raising a family. I was working 3 jobs at the time. I'd go to work in the morning. After work, I'd work at a sweatshop, printing house. Then I'd work on weekends. I'd cater on weekends. So I was really, and it was a tough life at the beginning. And I saw this job posted, and it said there's an apprenticeship at the Mint. And I said, I could do that. Yeah, right.
Right.
Look, it was a way out. It was
right.
It was another step forward. So I applied for the job and got a call from their, I guess it was from their employment department, and they said to me, we're going to put you in touch with Mr. Gasparro. And I had read about the Mint.
Right.
I always read about it, but it was always in passing. Never any place I really wanted to go.
Right.
No desire,
It's not like they had like new designs every year. At this point.
But I wasn't a collector. And the odd thing is, even after I retired, I wasn't a collector. And while I worked, I wasn't a collector because I never wanted anybody to say, "Where'd you get that coin?" or "Where'd you get that?"
Right.
So I never collected. But now I work for companies that are nice enough to give me samples of what I do.
Right.
And that's important to me now.
Right.
It wasn't important to me with the Mint because I knew I wasn't going to get anything.
Right.
So anyway, I applied for this job, and Gasparro called me, and he said, "I want you to come for an interview on a certain day, at a certain time." And he said, "Did you ever do any kind of sculpture?" I said, "No." He said, "Do you draw well?" I said, "Yes, I'm pretty good with my drawing skills." So he said, "Bring up some drawings and some of your illustrations." And he said, "I want you to do something for me." He said, "Do a model." Well,
Right, it's like wide open.
Yeah, well, the head starts turning, getting nervous. I didn't know what to do, and I had a week to do it. Not a week, less than a week, I think. So I went into my art books upstairs. I have an extensive, even then I had an extensive library. Open their eyes and say, "What do you do with all this? You read them all?" I said, "No." I said, "But I refer to them when I need them."
Right.
Which is what people do most of the time, unless you've written a book that's up on the shelf. So anyway, I went into a book on Michelangelo, and I saw the Sistine ceiling, and took one of the paintings from the Sistine ceiling with a beard, and I said, "Okay." I said, I'll try this. And I got a round piece of wood. My wife and I went shopping for a round piece of wood, and I laid some clay on it, and I began to cut it out. And people say they have epiphanies in their life, and I'm doing this thing, and I'm going, I got to get this job. This is old. I love this.
Right.
And I never done it before. Never did it before. I said, this is incredible. And I said, I got a feeling I never had, doing two-dimensional art. So I did this job. I mean, it wasn't great. It was passable. It showed that I had some talent, and I could get my elements and scales together,
Right.
So I brought it up to Gasparro along with I did some polychrome sculpture and stuff like that, and he never really, he was the kind of guy that you really couldn't read. A lot of people you can read. You can look at them and get a sense of, do they like your stuff?
Right.
Do they like you? And you can almost feel the chemistry, But with him, you couldn't feel nothing. And he just looked at my work and laid it out, and he'd go, very nice, very nice, very nice. Lay it out again, very nice. That's all he said, very nice.
Right.
Very nice. So he never took me in to see the engravers. I didn't know what the engraving room looked like.
Right.
There were 6 engravers, but I had no idea who they were. And after the interview, he said, thank you, Mr. Mercanti. He said, John, he said, we'll let you know. That was it.
Right.
So I didn't hear anything for about a month. I said to my wife, my wife Marianne, I said, I want to call them in. I said, because I haven't heard anything. And that's unlike a government agency not to hear anything. So called them in. I called the employment division, and I said, my name is John Mercanti. I applied for a job. Oh, Mr. Mercanti, we wanted to tell you got the job, but we couldn't find you. I said,
So
I've been calling you for a week.
Good thing you called,
really?
right? Right.
So I was thrilled. I was ecstatic.
Right.
So that's the first time we went to the Mint. My wife and I, and my young son, my oldest son at the time, went up to the Mint, and then I saw what I was in for.
Right.
And I got scared. I really got scared.
So what were you in for?
Oh, please, these guys are at the top of the line. This was finished artwork,
Right.
This was nothing like that piece I did. I still have that piece.
Right.
I should cast it because the wax is getting old and this color. I think I will cast it. Now that you mentioned it.
You do a better job today.
Yeah, I think so.
But what were you doing on a daily basis since essentially they're the same designs?
That's the thing. I started doing drawings.
Right.
The first drawing I did at the Mint is of my finger, and I still have that drawing. When I do there's a new book we want to do. That's going to be the first page. This finger, because I'm left-handed. I sat there and I drew anatomically that whole finger, and I still have that drawing. And I'm going to market my first drawing with the Mint. And I at that time, Chief Engravers always did the operas. There was no
competition
talking
or
about it. They did the operas. That's where I got into trouble too, because I was pretty good. I still a pretty good draftsman, and I used that same criteria when I hired somebody.
Right.
You have to be a good draftsman, and everybody at the Mint today are good draftsmen, skilled draftsmen. So I started doing drawings and submitting, but they were only reverses.
Right.
And I think I got a reverse. I think it was the J. Edgar Hoover reverse. I think was the first one I did, and that created a little dissension. Who's he think he is?
Right.
So I had to tread lightly. Because who's the new kid on the block? You come in, you get a reverse right away.
Yeah.
That ain't good. It's
no
not
gloating, huh?
Yeah. You can't do that. And I realized the politics of dealing with artists as I became more skilled, and I became a manager myself.
Well, the barbers didn't like Morgan when he came on board either. He had to work somewhere else.
Exactly. Well, Gasparro. I'll get to that in a minute. So the Humphrey reverse, the Humphrey obverse came up, and for some reason they let the artists, staff, submit obverse, and I got the obverse for Humphrey, which was the first obverse I did that I had to model myself.
Right.
Well, I had nothing up until that time. I was taking that must have been a year or so later, maybe, because I'd been going to art school, and I went to the Pennsylvania Academy, and I went to the Philadelphia College of Art at night, and I'd sit in class, and we'd have nude models, and everybody's working in a round, and I have a piece of board set up, and I'm working in relief.
Right.
Putting the clay on, boom, 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 boom. And teacher would come, the instructor would come over to me after I get, my levels and my planes established, and the teacher would say to me, where do you work? I said, where I work at the Mint. He said, well, you want to teach me how to do that? That's when something clicked in my head. I said, this isn't going to work.
Right.
I said, I don't need the credits.
Right.
I was almost through, I almost had enough credits to graduate. And I said, no. I said, I'm going back to the Mint, and I'm not taking another course. I said,
right.
Because I got the best in the world right there. Now some of the engravers that I worked for, other than Iacocca was a great portrait artist. He was probably one of the best portrait artists that I've ever encountered, up until Phoebe Hempel, who works there now. She's amazing. And I write this in the book. She's this century's Laura Gardin Fraser. This woman is absolutely off the charts good.
Well, let me ask you a question about politics and engravers. Now, obviously, there's a lot of office politics, but there's also a lot of external politics, and I think nothing really crystallizes that as much as the creation of the Susan B. Anthony dollar in 1979.
Oh yeah, Frank struggled with that.
So he initially wanted to do something with a Liberty cap and a flowing hair design.
Yeah. There are many models around.
Right.
I mean, when he died, there were many models at home. When he died, when he passed away, his daughter had us over to the house because they wanted to be sure there were no government models there.
Right. I don't know if it's an apocryphal story or... I heard that Frank Gasparro tried to spend Susan B. Anthony dollars at the Mint cafeteria when they first came out, and the cash register attendant didn't recognize that.
Well, we had blind cash register people there.
Uh-huh.
So I don't think that they would know.
Right.
That it was run by the blind, really. And the guy at the cash register was blind, and they found out people were trying to take advantage of him.
Uh-huh.
And they stopped that immediately. So maybe he tried to pawn one of them off, but they certainly wouldn't have known.
Right.
If they had just came out that that it was a Susan B. Anthony dollar. I mean, I remember going through Center City and trying to spend it, and people wouldn't take it. What's that? I said, it's a new dollar. No, we don't take it.
Right.
Yeah.
So they were hated from the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, inside the engraver's room, did you guys consider that the coin wasn't going to be successful?
Yeah, we knew it. I knew it.
You knew it?
By that time, I knew it. But we said it was the wrong size. If you're going to have a dollar the size of a nickel.
Right.
Or between a nickel and a quarter. Something that people can handle. You get a dozen of those things in your pocket, your pants are going to fall down. So, first of all, Congress makes up their mind, or certain people make up their mind, and that's the way it's going to be, no matter how much you fight them. So you just realize as you get older that this is the way it's going to be. Just don't waste your breath and fight it, because people have their minds made up, and that's the way it's going to be.
So in your opinion, do you think Frank was disappointed in the outcome of the Eisenhower dollar and then the Susan B. Anthony dollar?
I think it was one of the things that inspired him to leave eventually. Because he was really depressed when he left. He was really sad when he left. And, he was an icon. And I'd been in his office many times when he said, one time he did something for the Queen, and she was here, she was coming, and they didn't invite him to Washington. He got very upset. He says, you don't invite me, I'm quitting. They got an invitation up to them. They got that quick.
Right.
Do that today. Security would come and escort you out the door.
Right.
I mean, it was like, it was a different era. It was the end of the era of the Chief Engraver, as the Chief Engraver was.
Right.
I mean, it just became, that was it. He ran the dye shop. He was responsible for making dyes. When I left, we were responsible for the tooling,
Right.
but we weren't responsible for the die making. That was somebody else. But Frank had that responsibility. It became too much. And
Right.
he couldn't handle it after a while. And they saw that as he was getting older, so they had to take some of that away from him, and that upset him too. So there are factors that drove him out. But he survived. I mean, he still did something.
So John, how would you describe your style as an engraver? What sort of...
Just more classic. I was raised under the classic, regimes. I still feel like a lot of that Sinnock and Roberts, rubbed off in the way I model, as opposed to some of the other things. I mean, never had to model quickly, so I never had a real choppy look to my look. I always had time to refine it, because we would allow a month or maybe 6 weeks for a model at the time. Not today.
Right.
They do a model in a week, but they're skilled enough to do it in a week and refine it, and they have the tools to do that. We didn't have computer tools and things that would really help modeling. When I was at the Mint, we brought in a young sculptor by the name of Joseph Menon, who was really responsible for issuing in the digital technology into the Mint. And I'm on his Facebook page. You see some of the stuff that kid's doing today. He'd blow your mind. It's just amazing.
Well, one of the things I think maybe goes underrated with your art style is your very precise ability to render architectural objects.
Yeah, I learned to do that a long time ago. I learned it from Frank.
Right, because Frank's known for the memorial set reverse. And
learned it from Frank. Frank would look over my shoulders and say, get it sharper, get more detail. And he would do that. And so, it was nothing you could eliminate. Nothing you could eliminate.
Well, what do you find harder to do? Beautiful portraiture, beautiful architectural motifs.
I'd rather do portraiture.
Yeah.
I mean, architecture's good. I mean, I just did a thing at home of Ben Franklin with the Independence Mall in the background. Very low relief, getting all those levels of looking at it from the side, and very tedious. I'd rather be doing Franklin, so I'd rather work with figures and people, but animals,
Well, let's fast forward to the mid-1980s when the Liberty Coin Act was signed. You were awarded the reverse of the American Silver Eagle, which I think this year is celebrating its 30th anniversary. Yeah. They've made over 500 million of these.
Yeah.
Did you have even the slightest notion that this was going to be the most popular U.S. coin ever produced?
No, I had no idea. I mean, I'd be lying if I did.
Right.
I mean, it was just another coin that I did that I really liked, and it has a classic feel to it. So I never know that it would be where it is today or what it is today. And I talk to collectors all over the country. They love it.
So what was your concept behind the reverse?
To do something in a classic style. To do something that would last, and something that would complement the obverse.
Right.
I mean, don't want to get too stylistic, because you have such a beautiful coin, beautiful rendering on the obverse. So something simple but classic, and that's what I went for.
What was your opinion of Weinmann's design?
Oh, are you kidding? It was great. We went through that design, and there's a lot of what you call lost and found in his modeling, and in a lot of the classic modelers, like Saint Gaudens, with the hair. You don't see every strand of hair. You see some hair, clumps of hair. With the flag, you didn't see all the stars, because it was like what I said, a lost and found.
Like alluding to it being
alluding
there.
To the stars.
Yeah.
You might see a corner of a star,
right.
Very subtle point or something. But when we finished that, we actually kicked everything out.
Right.
And everybody had a chance to work on that at one point.
So by the time we get to, I guess, 1982, the United States Mint starts developing annual commemorative coin programs, and you're very prolific in that area. Is there a design that you designed that you really liked that never got made?
Yeah, there was a couple. One of the designs I did that never got made was the White House design.
That's the 1992 coin, right?
Yeah, it was the reverse for the the White House, I had a scroll on the back with an eagle above it with the prayer issued by Adams, was it? May none but honest men, gentlemen, I forget the prayer, but that was the gist of it. And somebody down in Washington said, you can't say men without saying women.
Right.
Halfway through the modeling, Elizabeth Jones came in and said, sorry, John, it's going.
Oh, no.
And it went.
What was your favorite commemorative design that you executed?
I think Statue of Liberty. I still like that.
Yeah, 86.
Yeah, because I really delved into that statue, top to bottom. And if you look very closely, and I never knew this, that when I saw some of the photos of her from the top, she's breaking chains with her
Right.
feet. And I actually put the chains on the coin. So if you get a microscope or some kind of magnification, you'll see she's
Right.
breaking chains.
So yeah, you have a coin coming out later this year that you revisited the artwork of Augustus Saint Gaudens. What was that process like?
It's tough. I mean, I seen these models. I lived with these models for many years. I mean, all the time I was at the Mint, I would go in and look at these models and just be astounded by the simplicity of his modeling. I mean, so simple, but capturing every element of the model, every plane, no matter how subtle it was there. You know, and, I was asked to reproduce one of the models that for the Walking Liberty. That one of the variations she had wings,
Right.
and then a headdress. And I said, okay, I'll do it. You know, I hired a photographer. Well, I didn't hire. The people I did the coin for hired the photographer, and I picked them.
Right.
I went up to the Saint Gaudens site and around that area. I picked out this guy and just off the top of my head, because I had no idea who was up there.
Right.
And he worked with me, and he did an amazing job. This kid, he was incredible. And he took pictures of the artwork, working with Henry Duffy up there, who's the curator, head curator, I guess. And they took a series of shots they had various models in various conditions, different states, you know. So he actually showed me on my Mac how I could blow up some of these certain specific areas
Right.
of the model, and the model's only this big. I mean, it's very 8 inches in diameter, and I model on glass now. And that's the one thing about digital art today is we had the model on basins, so we had to allow for the fact that the basin was concave, and the model had to rise open over that convexity.
Right.
And then it was really a pain in the neck. And then as you got out to the edge, you had to lower the model, keep the
Right,
relief
so it would
very
be
low.
below the rim,
So
right.
it was below the rim. But with digital technology, I model flat now.
Right.
I put my drawing under glass, and I model over the glass. So what they'll do is, once I make the plaster model, they just lift that image up, put it on the digital basin, refine it where it has to be refined, and that's what they did. But when I saw this thing, I said, I don't know how I'm going to do it. Really,
Right.
It was tough. But the thing is, I got so much out of it. I learned he has certain techniques in modeling, especially drapery, that he reproduces many times. So now I look for him and I'll see it here and I'll see it there and I'll see it there.
They're like stock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a stock technique he used.
Right.
But it works. I mean,
Right.
it's magnificent. And delving into this thing and doing it that way and reproducing it like he did, it became more natural to me. And then the other thing is I had to model it in a fairly low relief, because if I modeled it in a high relief, then they would have had to reduce it, and they would have lost some.
Right.
And secondly, if they tried to make a model from that, it would cost a fortune.
Right.
Because they would have to multiple strikes, and today I would have just driven the cost up. So what I did was I modeled it in medium relief, and I think it came out pretty good. I'm really proud of it. And I would recommend anybody going back and modeling something like any sculptor or young sculptor especially, go back and model one of his reliefs of one of his figures. And just, you get so much out of it. You really do. And I was pleased the way it came out. It was tough. It took me a long time. It took me about a month and a half to do.
Very cool. We look forward to seeing the actual coin when it's available.
Yeah.
So, John, thanks for spending some time with us today.
Thanks, buddy.
Share this
Always a
information.
pleasure.
For CoinWeek, I'm CoinWeek Editor Charles Morgan. Until next time, happy collecting.
Happy collecting.